Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Hope you are all doing well. So, lastly, we talk about the market entry, how you get into a foreign market for the first time. We covered entry modes, decision metrics, and we walked through the full entry strategy proposal using the model of the Sehat Kahani and Bangladesh as our case. So, today we are going to talk about the international scaling models because getting into a market and scaling in a market are two different challenges. It must be clear that a lot of entrepreneurs, smart ones, well funded ones, nail the entry and then struggle badly with the scaling. They assume that once you have figured out how to operate in a new market, growth is just a matter of doing more of the same thing, but it isn't. Scaling internationally introduces a whole new set of problems. These problems include the coordination problems, resource allocation problems, brand consistency problems, regulatory problems, and and many other. They multiply as you add countries. People problems because the leadership and team structures that work when you are running one market are often completely wrong for running five markets simultaneously. So this lecture is entirely about how you plan for global growth systematically. We are going to cover them and we will talk about the main international scaling models, what they are, when each one fits, and what their failure models look like. So we'll talk about the building blocks of scaling, what you actually need to have in place before you try to grow. So that will be our study and our lecture plan by today. So coming toward the first part, that is why scaling internationally is harder than it looks. Before we get into models and frameworks, we need to spend a few minutes on why international scaling fails. Because the failure patterns are consistent and understanding them helps to save us from walking into the same traps. So, the first is the copy paste trap. This is the most common mistake. A venture succeeds in its home market, enters a second market, and essentially tries to replicate the exact same model there. Exactly, and try to replicate same product, same pricing, same marketing, and same operational structure. Sometimes this works for a short time, usually it doesn't. Because what made you successful in market A is a combination of your behavior, the competitive landscape, the cultural context. None of these conditions are identical in market B. If you copy paste without adopting, you are betting that the conditions are close enough. That's often a losing bet. So we need to adopt our rules, regulations, product structure, pricing, each and everything according to the other market and the cultural context, the government rules, regulation, and to the setting. The next is the scaling before the foundation is solid. Another classic, a venture gets traction in one international market, gets excited, and immediately tries to enter three more markets simultaneously. But the operational infrastructure, the system, the processes, the supply chains, the talent pipeline isn't yet robust enough to support multiple markets at once. Everything starts to crack under the weight of simultaneous expansion. You end up with three underperforming markets instead of one well performing market. Moving ahead, we then losing the core while chasing the periphery. International scaling consumes enormous management attention, leadership time, capital, and operational energy. All of it gets pulled towards the new markets. And meanwhile, the home market or the first successful international market starts to deteriorate because nobody is minding it anymore. Nobody is giving proper attention to the home market. You win Bangladesh while quietly losing Pakistan. So this is just an example that always try to focus first on your home market, and when you are able to maintain your home market, then you can have other markets as well. The next is underestimating local talent needs. Scaling internationally doesn't just require capital, it requires people. Specifically, it requires local leaders who understand the market, have local credibility, and can make good decisions autonomously. Ventures that try to run all their international markets from headquarters with the expat managers who rotate every 2 years consistently underperform against ventures that invest in building deep local leadership capacity. The next is the regulatory compounding. Each new country adds a layer of regulatory complexity. When you are in a one market, you manage one regulatory environment. When you are in five, you are managing five, each with different rules, regulations, different licensing requirements, different compliance obligations. Ventures that don't build dedicated regulatory capacity before scaling internationally routinely find that regulatory issues in one market create contagion, slowing down operations across the whole portfolio. So keep these five failure patterns in your mind. Everything we cover in the scaling model sections is in some way a response to one of these failure patterns, and will try to resolve and how to handle such patterns. The next part is the three main international scaling models. So now let's get into the models themselves. When it comes to planning international scaling, there are three primary models you'll encounter in the literature and in practice. They are not mutually exclusive. Many ventures use elements of more than one, but understanding them distinctly helps you make deliberate choices rather than just growing by instinct. So, uh, the first model is waterfall. The waterfall model, sometimes called sequential scaling, means you enter and fully establish one market before moving to the next. You go deep before you go wide. Market one is entered, stabilized, made profitable, and given strong local leadership. Then and only then do you move to market two. You repeat the process. Market two reaches stability, then market three. The logic is disciplined resource allocation. You are never spreading capital and management attention across more markets than you can properly handle. Each market gets the focus it needs to actually work. The risks, we have to talk about the risk as well. Is it's slow in a competitive global environment. Taking 3 to 4 years to establish each market sequentially means a faster moving competitor can leapfrog you into markets you haven't reached yet. It also means you are highly exposed if your early markets don't perform. If market one underperforms, the whole scaling plan styles. The waterfall model tends to work best for healthcare ventures where regulatory approval and local clinical trust building are slow processes that genuinely can't be rushed. Telemedicine platforms, hospital networks, clinical service providers. In healthcare, you often can't fake local depth. You need it, and building it takes some time. The second model is the sprinkler model. The sprinkler model, sometimes called simultaneous or parallel scaling, is the opposite. Uh, you enter multiple markets at roughly the same time, accepting lower depth in each market initially in exchange for speed and breadth. The logic is market capture. In sectors where network effects matter or where being first to establish brand recognition in a market creates durable competitive advantage, speed is more valuable than depth. You get into 10 markets in 2 years rather than two markets in 2 years. The risks are significant. It requires enormous capital because you are funding operations across multiple markets simultaneously before any of them are profitable yet. It requires exceptionally strong operational systems, highly standardized processes, centralized technology infrastructure, scalable training, because you can't afford to custom build everything for each market from scratch, and it requires leadership bandwidth that most early stage ventures simply don't have. In healthcare, the sprinkler model tends to work better for asset light, technology driven ventures, digital health platforms, health tech apps, telemedicine, than for asset heavy ones like hospital chains or diagnostic labs. The more physical infrastructure your model requires, the harder it is to simultaneously build in multiple markets. Moving ahead, now the third model, the hub and spoke model. The hub and spoke model sits between the waterfall and the sprinkler. You establish one strong regional hub, a market where fully operational will stop and generating enough revenue to fund regional expansion, and then you use that hub to enter a cluster of nearby markets. The hub provides services, regional leadership, regulatory expertise, and capital for the spoke markets around it. The logic is efficiency. Instead of running every spoke market from headquarters in your home country, you run them from a regional hub that's geographically, culturally, and regulatorily closer to them. Your Singapore hub serves Southeast Asia, your Dubai hub serves the Middle East, your Nairobi hub serves East Africa. So actually, you are controlling from your host country the nearby regions. In healthcare context, so in healthcare, this model is particularly powerful because regulatory environment tends to be more similar within regions than across them. If you have navigated the regulatory processes in one South Asian market, that knowledge is more helpful to be applied to an adjacent South Asian market than to uh, another continent, just like to an African or to a Latin American one. Coming towards the risk factors of this model, so the risks include the hub itself becomes a point of failure. If your hub market underperforms, your entire regional expansion is affected, and building a hub takes time and capital. You need to fully commit to making that hub market excellent before you think it is a launch pad. Then building blocks. of a scaling plate. So, uh, regardless of which model you choose, every serious international scaling plan needs to have certain building blocks in place. This is the checklist your 3 year scaling roadmap needs to address. So we will talk about that building blocks in detail in this lecture. So the first is the standardization versus localization balance. Before you scale, you need to decide explicitly, not by accident, what stays the same across all markets and what gets adapted locally. Your clinical protocols standardize, your brand identity standardize, your technology platform standardize, your pricing localize, your marketing messaging localized, your community engagement approach localized. Getting this balance right before you scale means you don't have to renegotiate it market by market, which is time consuming and creates inconsistency. National infrastructure. Can your back end actually support multiple markets? Your supply chain, your financial reporting, your IT infrastructure. Scaling internationally on fragile operational infrastructure is how ventures end up with markets that technically exist but can't actually function properly. Before you open market uh, uh, in another region or a second market, your first market operation needs to run without you watching them every day. So this is also an important building block. Then local leadership pipeline. Where are the local leaders coming from each new market? This is a question most scaling plans don't answer clearly enough. You need a deliberate leadership development strategy, identifying high potential local talent in each market, developing them, and putting them in charge. Not rotating expat managers, local leaders who own the market. Then we have the regulatory roadmap. What are the specific regulatory requirements in each target market? In what sequence do you need to meet them? And who is responsible for managing the process? This needs to be mapped out before you enter each market, not after entering the market. That is also an important building block. Then the fifth building block is the capital plan. How much does scaling into each new market cost? When does that capital need to be developed? And what are the financial milestones that determine whether you continue into next market or consolidate where you are? Your scaling plan without capital is a wish list, not a strategy. The sixth building block is the learning and feedback loops. How does knowledge from one market feed into the next? What does market 2 learn from market 1's mistake? What does market 3 learn from market 2 mistakes? Venture that scale without formal mechanism for capturing and sharing learning across markets keep making the same mistake again and again and it results in the failure. So the feedback process and learning from the previous mistakes is very necessary in scaling. So we have talked about the six building blocks that are necessary. In the next lecture, we will talk about the 3 year scaling roadmap. We will do it step by step, and then we will assign you an assignment about this topic. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you have any query or question, so never hesitate to ask. Thanks for your time.